I bought this grinder stand from Harbor Freight a long time ago. I used it for a while, but I never was really too happy with it. It wasn't the most stable thing in the world. I hate to say bad things about it, but it was kind of a piece of crap. What did I do with the tube for it? Hang on a second. There's the center tube for it. As you can see by the ends, it never really was too sturdy. The more you tighten these little screws, the more it would kind of dent in and just all in all wobble all around. Like I said, I didn't really like it too much. So a while back I took it apart, and since then I really haven't been using my grinder. I've been using my belt sander to do things like dress drill bits, but I kind of like using my grinder a little better. So basically what I want to do is make this thing more sturdy. One way that I thought that I can make it more sturdy was to use this. This is a piece of 3-inch, I'm assuming hot rolled steel. I say that it's probably hot rolled just because it has this mill scale all over the outside. I got this piece a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, aka New Jersey. I did a clean out from an auction, paid $10, got a table, whole bunch of aluminum cutoffs, steel cutoffs, and this was part of what was in there. This and another piece about twice the size have just been kicking around my shop for the last few years. So I had the idea of taking this and turning it down and making something more sturdy for this, for the bottom, that'll slip into the tube over there. So now let's take some things over to the bandsaw and cut some stuff up. I bought this little Milwaukee M12 right angle die grinder a while back. I was on the fence about it, but it's actually pretty awesome. Everyone says it eats through batteries, but I've been using this XC 4.0 and it works pretty good. I wouldn't use it all day long for sanding compared to, something like my pneumatic die grinder, but for doing small stuff like this, it gets the job done real good. As you saw, I took off a couple inches from each end of the tube. I wasn't sure if I wanted to do that because I didn't want to reduce the overall height of everything, but I figured with these pieces, I kind of took up about that much that I had taken off, so not that big of a deal. The pieces came out pretty decent. I made one for the top and one for the bottom. I don't do much working with steel. I had to run the lathe at a pretty ungodly speed to get this decent of a surface finish. Most of the time I work with aluminum, Delrin. I'd say probably 90% of what I do on the lathe is aluminum, with the other maybe 5 to 7% being Delrin plastic and a couple percent of steel. Usually not much and never anything this big, but it was pretty scary. I felt like I was gonna send these things into a low Earth orbit. It was at the highest speed my lathe goes, which is just a South Bend 9-inch lathe from the mid 50s. So now I have these two ends, one for the top, one for the bottom. I cut a little bit of a recess where it can sink in to the end, and it'll give me a little something to weld to. Now I could just go ahead and run a MIG weld around the whole thing, but I'm kind of running a little low on MIG gas, and I decided I'm going to go ahead and TIG it. Mainly because I'm not that great at TIG. I mean, I'm okay, I can stick metal together, but usually when I do little projects around the shop, I try to do it with TIG welding, just because it's not critical, it doesn't have to look great, and it's decent practice for me. Thank you. I appreciate it, but you can hold your applause. Some of you probably noticed that I cheated a little bit on that one. What I did was an autogenous weld, not to be mistaken with an autonomous weld, an autogenous weld. Basically, it's a weld with no filler material. I use that as a little practice just to get my torch angle right, my spacing right, and work on a little bit of pulsing with the foot pedal. For what it's going to be, I think I got enough penetration to really sink the bead in enough to bond the two pieces together. Now what I really got to do is figure out how I'm going to coat this. I was thinking about just spray painting it, but I kind of don't have a way to support it or hold it. So I think what I'm going to do is try to powder coat it. Now to powder coat it, I'm going to have to hang it. And to hang it, I'm going to have to probably drill a little hole in the end, thread it, and put a hook or an eye bolt or something like that into the end. That way I can hang it up in my oven, or hang it up to spray and then hang it up in my oven to bake. Here are all the pieces after powder coating. I wasn't sure if I was going to powder coat the base and the top plate, but after seeing how good the center tube came out, it really made these look pretty terrible in comparison. This is the frame for the water tray. Normally, as you're sharpening a drill bit or a piece of tool steel for the lathe, you don't want to get it too hot, so you want to quench it in some water periodically. For the hardware, what I used was Birchwood KC Super Blue. I find that it works really good on hardware. For the process of applying it, you pretty much clean the parts, wire wheel them off real good, put them in some alcohol or wipe them down with alcohol to clean it, dry them off. Go ahead and soak them in the super glue for a bit, and then take them out and put them in some fresh water, and then finish them up with some machine oil or like a 3-in-1 oil. And makes them look great, and it adds a really nice corrosion protection. I'll put a link to a video for Mr. Pete 222 Tubal Cane. He has a lot of machine shop type videos, and he's got some really good videos on applying bluing to metal parts. So next thing I got to do is put everything back together. I'm extremely happy with how this came out and how sturdy it is. I mean, before there's no possible way I would have been able to sit on top of it and move my weight around at all. The whole thing would have fallen over. This thing's so sturdy I could probably stand on top of it. I do have to make some room for it to go in its final spot and clean off the grinder that's going to go on top of it. It's an old Craftsman block grinder that I picked up on Craigslist a while ago for $5, which was an awesome deal. It needs some cleaning, and if you've made it this far and you want to see me do a following video on cleaning up the grinder, put it down in the comments below. But all in all, I'm stoked with how it came out. It's going to be really nice to add this to my shop, and it's time to move on to the next one.